Welcome everybody to our 2020-21 virtual media day for women's basketball. We're starting off with head coach Angel Elderkin. It's her seventh season with the Mountaineers. She welcomed back three starters and nine letter winners from a team that won seven of their last 11 games in the regular season last year. So a strong ending to the regular season. And the Mountaineers are scheduled to open this season, November 25th, a little less than 2 weeks away at home against Charlotte. So um, I guess for everyone on the call, I guess it's Ethan, Jason, Pierre, if you have anything, um, if you want to just throw something at me at the chat and say that you have a question, and then Coach, if you want to just open with kind of an opening statement, then we'll get to questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today under these circumstances. You guys are probably really used to doing Zoom media days. This will be a first for me. However, I am really excited to talk about this year's women's basketball team. We got a great group with us. I think during the pandemic, we were able to spend a lot of time building our foundation culturally. And then when we came back, because of the constraints, we were able to really hone in on some skill sets and just really work a lot on player development. And so we've kind of like how COVID, you talk about phase one, phase two, phase three. We had several different phases. And our last phase was our practice phase, and where we're competing every day for at least 45 minutes in practice. And we actually had our first inter squad scrimmage yesterday with officials. And I walked away from that just really pleased. Our team, a biggest change, I think, if you looked at us on paper and said, oh, what have they done well? What have they not done well? We haven't been a team that's assisted the ball at a high level in practice this season. We've had 16 practices, and we are assisting at a rate of 65% on all our made baskets. And so we are playing a different style of basketball. We've made, during the pandemic, our staff did what I would call like an autopsy on our program. How can we get better here? What do we need to do here? How can we change a couple things here? And our players have embraced it. Learned a lot from the NBA while we're in the pandemic and how they play what they call 0.5 basketball. We're kind of playing 1 second basketball where we're giving our players a lot of freedom. And we've seen just complete makeovers with some of our student athletes. Pre Stanley is off to a terrific start in terms of what she did, how she looks, how she's playing. She's elite right now, and I'm super excited about her. And so I'll let you guys fire away with questions because I'm sure you guys have some stuff, but I can't tell you how fired up I am about this group.
Okay, we'll start off with Ethan Joyce from the Winston-Salem Journal.
I know we've already said hello, but hello again, Angel. Good to see you. I guess first off, looking back at last season, you have a little more time just because of the pandemic and the way it kind of shut all of us in, and I wonder how you kind of guard against, really taking a deep dive on that as a staff, but maybe not overdoing it so much. And so how do you kind of approach that balance of maybe not digging in too hard on yourselves, but also really taking that full look at, what worked and what didn't last season?
Interesting that you say that, because when the pandemic started several weeks after, there was every coaching clinic you can imagine. So everything went virtual. I mean, it was Texas. There was so much information. And so I said to my staff, I'm going to dive deep, but I'm not going to dive wide. There's so much stuff, and I don't want to get cluttered by everything. I had to take a deep dive at our culture, and that was the first thing. And you'll talk to 3 players today who one of the first things we did was we assigned a leadership council. So last season, we kept reflecting like we're lacking leadership, but just like we work with their skill set on shooting, you have to work with leadership. And so we decided we're going to have a leadership council. We're going to name our captains, and we're going to meet with them every week so they can be sort of that middle management with our team. And that change helped us so much, even when we had to do so much virtually. And so that was a huge, I spent a lot of time on what does a leadership council look like? What are things I should be doing? How do I develop them as leaders? And so I spent a ton of time on that. And then I went through our film and spent a lot of time on skill development. I've always been a huge fan of Jay Wright at Villanova. And so I spent a lot of time with how he teaches his guys off of 2 feet. And so we met as a staff. We watched a lot of clips, and it wasn't so much the action we were running. We kind of really went back to skill set. And then I think each of us kind of dove into different little things we could tweak, whether we sought out the Alabama men's staff, like we just sought out different coaches, and we spent a lot of time, and we've really built something for us that we can't say, hey, we're doing exactly what this program does. We took different pieces and we've kind of made it our own to fit our personnel. And I'll be honest with you, Ethan, it wasn't until our group came back in July, we got them going. And then we kind of took a deep breath in August and said, we got some pieces we haven't had in the past. We got to do some things differently. And so even all of the work we put in, we still didn't know what we had until these guys actually got to campus. And so it's been something that's kind of been really evolving over the last couple weeks.
As far as that leadership council goes, how many, or I guess with those players, how many of those players were ones that said, hey, I want to step up and do that? And how many of those were you picking someone and maybe putting them in a different, I don't know if uncomfortable is the right word, but you're really asking them to kind of take that step forward as well?
Yeah, it was, it's Lainey Gosnell, Pre Stanley, and Tierra Wilson. And Lainey and Pre took on some of that role last year without me ever saying, hey, these are our captains. And so they've been the face of the program since they stepped foot on campus, started as freshmen, and just really been the face. And so it was really a natural, they were really grateful. I remember after the first meeting, they said they were like, we really appreciate you putting us in this position. And then not having Tierra last year was a huge hit. She is kind of like that natural, vocal, tough player. And so for her, she having a year out was kind of like the Maddie Story transition, where Maddie sat out a year and then the next year she was a leader. And so each of them are very different, but they complement each other. But they knew that we didn't want to go down the road that we did the year before, in terms of we could sit together and say, I could say, here's where I messed up. We can't have this. How can we be better? And I think them going through a year of maybe not having great leadership made them hungrier to want to be that for our team.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're seeing a lot more assists in the work that the teams have done. Is that coming from a certain person? Is that from a group of people, or is that just like indicative of a different way you guys are just going to play this year?
Yeah, it's starting with Pre Stanley. We've been putting her, we're calling it the racker, but we've been putting her at the point guard position, and she's really embraced it. I mean, she didn't like it. And then she's finally said, Coach, I'm going to do whatever the team needs me to do. But her teammates certainly like it, because she's able to, you guys know how dynamic she is. She gets to the paint and now she's creating wide open shots. So she's been assisting the ball at a high level. Janae Sanders, who did not play for us last year, who's more of a natural point guard racker. Another one assisting at a high level, Brooke Biggett, who was in the lineup last year. So those three are doing the brunt of it, but there's also a lot more opportunities for our post players to get them. So it's kind of spread around, but I would say that Pre's one of the biggest difference, because she's attacking the paint with vision and creating for others.
And this will be the last one for me. Obviously, you lose Bailey, who was a pretty big deal for this program for a while. But I'm just curious at how that maybe affects the pace of this team. And if it's kind of beneficial that maybe you have some pieces that maybe run a little better. And Bailey got better at that as she went along. But I wonder how you think it affects the pace of the team.
One of the things that we're not going to know, I don't think, until we really tip against Charlotte, is the rebounding. Bailey just dominated for us on the defensive end. And so in order for us to be good defensively, we're going to have to finish plays. Now, when I look at the stats from yesterday, it was really spread out. If we can continue to share that responsibility, we'll be okay. One thing we're not good at right now, and we're shooting a lot of threes, is our offensive rebounding. But in terms of her, I think what we evaluated at the end of the year was that the amount of space that she took up in the paint it really limited us with a player like Pre Stanley and how dynamic she was. It didn't give her a lot of space. And so, not really having somebody to fill Bailey's shoes, it was like, how can we play a system where we lose such a big post player that could pass, that could screen? How do we move our post players to create space to help with Pre? And that's really why we had to make some changes, because she did eat a lot of space for us in there, and we don't have that. And now it's really actually worked to our benefit. And I like that you brought up pace, because three things that we're saying to our team is, we want to race the ball down, we want to space the ball, and we want to play with pace. And we are doing that. And I think now we have lineups of Lainey, Gosnell, and KK Porter playing our post. And those are two really fast, athletic, 6-foot players. And so it is a different look for us.
Just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, to submit them to the chat. Coach, I'll chime in. You had mentioned some of the NBA stuff, and you may have kind of gone over it now, but just what kind of motivated you, and what did you kind of take away from some of those even bigger picture things that you looked at that level?
At that level, they talk a lot about 0.5 basketball. And so on the catch, that's how quickly they want their players making reads. And so I watched a lot of our stuff, and we would catch and hold and be very indecisive last year and be very robotic. And I felt at times that our players were robotic. They wanted to do what we wanted them to do. So when they caught it, they were thinking, what pass does coach want me to make? Or how do I run the play? And so throughout the off season, met with them a lot and showed them, and they confirmed it. They always wanted to do what we asked them to do. But I thought for us to really evolve, we had to play free. And I think one of the things, the NBA is always ahead, right? And so they do such a good job at spacing the floor, not using a low block, and things like that, that it's just been really neat, to kind of take some of those concepts and then apply them to our game, and to see our players really enjoy playing in that kind of, playing with that kind of freedom.
I'll follow up with one more and then pass it on to Pierre. You mentioned Jay Wright's 2-foot jumping, of just kind of the advantages, or just kind of how that changes the way you play a little bit.
Yeah. So since the players returned, we talked a lot about coming to 2 feet, whether it's a quick stop, jump stop, or a stride stop. And we were skeptical at first. It was taking a while. And now we just continue to pound to them the growth of it. And so showing them how many more open shots we're getting, because we're getting under control. And so I spent Jalen Brunson was one of my favorite players that played for Villanova. When I worked out as an assistant at Virginia, his dad was on the men's side, and he just worked so tirelessly from start to finish. And I just loved his game, and started to really watch a lot of how Jay Wright breaks it down. And it was really, really simple, and it was easy. And when I broke our team down, and it was like, hey, if you came to a 2-foot stop here and you did this here, look at all the different options. So just wanted to give them solutions. But that's really where it all started, was just a lot of studying of those guys. And now I know we don't have Jalen Brunson and we don't have those guys, but to watch a Villanova team that won like a national championship, and all their guys catch the ball the same way, they all stop the same way. There's just something to be said about that, because they're all pretty high level athletes.
Yeah, I may have confused that a little bit with jumping and stopping. I apologize.
Yeah.
We'll go to Pierre Banks.
Hey, Coach, good to see you as always.
Thanks, Pierre.
It doesn't seem that long ago that we were just talking about you not having enough experience on your team and how young you were. Now this core group has been there 4 years. And what does it do for the character of your team to have so many folks there that have been familiar with the system and can now be leaders?
Yeah, I can't say enough about them. When all this started too, when you talk about Lainey and Pre and Tierra, when they came in here as freshmen, and now to think they're entering their senior year, it's awesome, because I think we have a really special freshman group, with Faith and Dane and Bailey, and they're making mistakes, and they're not grasping everything, and they're not competing for lanes, and they're not doing things that we want them to do. But now they have an example, and they have players to look up to, and they have players teaching them what to do. And so it helps us as coaches, because when those guys are coming in, there's nobody to lead the way. We're leading the way. Now it's like we can say it, they do it, they echo it, and now you can see the transition happen quicker. They always say like player-led teams are much better than coach-led teams. And what we've done this year is give our players like a lot of choices and let them come up with things. And so the buy-in is just greater. But I mean, this senior day is going to be, my eyes will start watering up thinking about them leaving. They've just meant so much to me as a head coach.
And one of those players, Pre Stanley, one of the best in the country, really. Talk about where you've seen her grow the most in her game from year one until now.
Yeah, I think when she came in, turnovers were a problem, pace of play, mentality, just in terms of knowing how dynamic she was, knowing she could do it, but then getting her to believe it behind it. And Pierre, I wish you would have came yesterday, because and the first time you see her, you're going to remember us having this conversation and be like, wow, you're right. Just the way her presence on the court right now in terms of how she's communicating with her teammates, how unselfish she is. She can get a bucket anytime she wants, and she's just creating for others. Some of the passes, so Brett was kind of talking about my NBA stuff. Now, some of the passes the guys make in the NBA, they're high level. So my coaches are like, Angel, you're asking these guys to make these jump skip passes that these guys are pros. Well, Pre Stanley's making them. And Pre Stanley is going to be a pro. And that's just her evolution has just been, and it's just been her, I would just say her competitive maturity has just been awesome to see. And she'll get on here today and she'll be humble and she won't talk about herself at all.
So we know about the core group, we know about the stars, but who are some of the folks that have really impressed you and the coaching staff thus far leading up to the season?
Yeah, so last year, Michaela Porter came to us from Cincinnati. We were able to get her the waiver. She was able to play. She played the wing. She had big shoes to fill with Maddie. She didn't meet the expectations to start. We really were like, wow, we got this 5'10" guard. We thought she was going to be, but it was a tough transition. She didn't play a lot. Over the summer, worked her butt off. We've moved her to the 4, and she has been impressive in terms of her ability to shoot the ball, her toughness around the rim. And she, with her and Lainey, both at that stretch position, gives us multiple guys that can come in and shoot the 3. But just her work ethic alone has been tremendous. She's been a huge, huge bright spot. I would say with our freshmen, we have a freshman, Dane Bartolina. She's from Charlotte. Her range is, I haven't had a kid that can shoot the ball the way that she can shoot it. And she came in with Bailey Trum, who led the state in Tennessee for made threes. So they were a big reason why we've made some changes, because our ability to stretch the floor. But their competitiveness, and that's what I've put like our top group against our newcomers in practice, and it is competitive as it could be. And that was the one piece that last year I felt like we were lacking. And so I can't say enough. Even Faith Alston, who's a freshman, who is going to be a great point guard, she's just been in and out of some injuries. She's been pretty impressive. We need to get her ready. And then Janae, who sat out last year as a transfer. Her brother played here from Charlotte. Dynamic guard. Once it clicks for her, she could be very good. But I also have to say that probably one of my biggest bright spots has been Tierra Wilson back. Like first day back that I let her do contact, she steps up and takes a charge. Coming off an ACL. We haven't been able to get anybody to take a charge in practice. Just puts her body and shooting the ball. It's been great. It's like when you watch Maddie come back and you're like, did she just come from an ACL? Now you're watching Tierra come back and you're like, wow, we really did miss her last season.
To piggyback off that, when she first got here, starting point guard, very involved offensively, defensively, then fully embraced the role coming off a bench and elevated your team's play, missed the season with the injury. What is her role now with the team?
Right now, I would, I'm not set right now on who's going to start. She's in that top group, but when you reference having that, we had that punch of her and Maya Calder that one year, and that's really what separated us. I think that's where the excitement comes for me, is like walking away from the scrimmage yesterday. I was like, we have a solid 10. And so now it's like, who mixes with that, who plays. I mean, Pre, obviously I've talked a lot about Pre, and you talk a lot about Lainey being out there, and Brooks' experience, and Janae and Tierra. I think we have a really good guard rotation. We're obviously trying to fill our post rotation with that, but I think Tierra is going to be a major contributor this season.
This would be my last question. But Coach, a little bit different this year with your schedule, going back to backs with the conference schedule. How will that affect the way your team plays with the defensive intensity that you all bring and being able to prepare for that second game?
Yeah, we've talked about that, and I think the good news is we've got one opponent for the week. We're excited right now today about our depth. For those of you who've been on my journey for 7 years, hasn't always been the case with health. And now this year we have a different opponent. And so we've got to stay healthy. But in terms of defensive intensity, Pierre, this is the first year where after Monday, we'll have most of our defensive package in, and it has a bunch of different looks. And so I think we're really excited about that too, of being able to have the zone, we had to play a lot of that aggressive zone last year because we were hiding and trying to disguise. And now I feel like we could have multiple things to go to. So we're excited about it. But till I get in this Friday, Saturday thing, I don't think I'm truly going to know. 7 years in the Sun Belt, and every year it's been a different schedule for me. So it's when you think you've got a rhythm, it changes. But we've just we've been doing some stuff in terms of practice, going hard back to back and getting them mentally and physically prepared for the challenge.
Thanks, Coach.
We have a few more minutes with Coach. We have Cameron Burnett from the Appalachian.
Hey, Coach, thanks for your time. I just got one quick question for you. So I know you just talked about how you're not hiding anymore on defense. Can you just tell me, has there been any surprise of a strength that's emerged for this team?
On the defensive side of the ball, or just overall?
Overall.
I would say our ability to pass the ball this season. I talked when we opened up, something that we hadn't been good at had been assisting the basketball. And so we've been charting practice, and generally we compete 45 minutes to an hour every day. And in those competitive drills, we're assisting on 65% of our shots, which is something different that we haven't done well in the past.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for Coach? All right. Coach Elderkin, thank you for your time, and good luck this season. And then we'll transition to some player interviews.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, the three players we have scheduled for today, Pre Stanley, Tierra Wilson, and Lainey Gosnell. Pre Stanley, an all Sun Belt guard and all Sun Belt preseason selection, averaged 14.1 points per game last year, if I'm correct about that. I don't know if you'd just like to kind of open up with some comments of what it's been like to get going with preseason practices and how things look so far, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I think that it's been kind of difficult just adjusting with like COVID and everything, but with all of my teammates and all of us just like, wanting to get on track and get things moving, I think it's been awesome. Honestly, this is probably the best year so far for me, as just getting in there, competing really hard and making it fun, even though there's a lot of other things going on outside of this and, with the uncertainty and everything, but it's been extremely fun.
All right. If you have questions for Pre, Pre Stanley, please submit to them to the chat. I guess I'll start off. Just Coach talked about your role, sort of like a point guard. Getting in the lane where you can score or distribute a little bit. Just what's that adjustment been like for you to kind of be able to make some of those decisions with your talent?
It's definitely a challenge, but I'm willing to accept the challenge. It's not like I haven't played point guard before, so it's not anything like extremely new. It's just me adjusting and preparing myself for, like with the pace and being aware of where everyone is on the floor and everything, and just getting a feel for how people want passes and different things like that. But other than that, I'm definitely willing to accept the challenge, and I think it's going to be really, really good.
All right, we'll go to Ethan Joyce from the Winston-Salem Journal.
Hey, Pre. Angel was talking about it like when she first kind of asked you to be a point guard or kind of play that point guard role. It wasn't necessarily something you were too excited about, and then you eventually was like, okay, I get it. It makes sense. What changed your mind? Like, what made you feel more comfortable about that, or or that role?
So it definitely was just like kind of out of my comfort zone, but I think that you have those times, especially just in life. I mean, not even with basketball, but just in life in general. Like, you have those times where you have to step out of your box, that comfort zone. But for me, I'm just willing to do whatever it is the team needs me to do for us to be good.
Has it been fun for you? Like, have you let it be fun for you, or is it still very much kind of focusing on just making sure you're doing it the right way?
I definitely focus on making sure I'm doing it the right way a lot. I love to get feedback from teammates, especially from Coach Christina, with her being the position coach for point guard. But I'm just letting it come to me. And I think that I'm doing a pretty good job. So just having fun, and again, just talking to my teammates to be sure that we're all on the same page, and just going with the flow.
Last one for me. Angel was talking about how beneficial it's been to have Tierra, back on the court, because her voice has been really important for this team. What's that been like for you to watch, just seeing her come back from injury, but also kind of stepping into that vocal role again almost immediately?
It's been awesome. I absolutely love playing with Tierra, and just having her voice and having her on the floor with me. It's been amazing. I'm really excited to have her back, and I know that it's going to be something big for our team, because that was definitely a big piece.
Next, we'll go to Pierre Banks, who has too many titles to introduce him with.
Hey, Pre, hope all is well. So when people look at your game, a lot of times they focus on the offense because you put the ball in the basket so well. But when I look at your game, I see you get so excited on the defensive end, taking on that challenge of defending the opposing team's best offensive player. What is that intensity, and what does that motivation come from?
Again, it's like doing whatever I have to do for the team to put us in the best position. I take on whatever I can, and I try to be the best I can while doing that. Getting on defense, that's a big thing for us, and we're always looking to get like kills. We do that in practice, so we have to be excited for that. So it's definitely, it's a good thing. Like, that's how I just get my energy. We move off. I move off of my teammates, and they definitely give me that energy too to get me going.
Named one of the team captains this year, and you got a few new faces on your roster. How do you go about taking on that leadership role and making sure that you pull the folks that are a little bit newer to the program into the fold?
I do it by holding myself at the standard that we have set here. If I don't hold myself accountable, then how can I hold anyone else accountable? So I try doing it by just leading by example, doing what I'm supposed to do, and they'll follow along.
This would be my last question. So the entire time you've been here, you've seen some different looks. You all were so young your first year, and then you get Maddie Story back, and you're a little bit older, And last year you lose a big piece in Tierra Wilson. And now it seems like everything is coming together for you for your senior year. What are your expectations going into your final go round?
Like we always said, last one, best one. So we're gonna make this the best one.
Thanks, Pre.
All right, next up we have Cameron Burnett from the Appalachian.
Hey, so you just talked about your expectations for your senior year. So have you approached it differently at all, knowing it's your senior year?
Oh yes, definitely. Just changing my mentality like completely, because of course I have issues with just like mental barriers and getting in my own head and stuff. But I think I've been a lot more lax with just going about it this year, and just letting it come to me. And again, like I think as a team, we've been doing really well with that. We're holding one another accountable. We push one another like never before, and also we have fun doing it. So it's not a job. Like we're coming in here, we're getting done what we need to get done, and we're competing at a high level to make sure that we're holding one another accountable and stuff. So we can do the things that we want to on the floor once game time comes.
Okay, so you talked about that, how you've had some. Oh, am I echoing? Okay, never mind. I heard an echo, but you talked about how you've had some of those mental barriers. So you say when you've had some of that mental struggle sometimes on the court, how do you think you can bring that as a leader so you can teach some of the young people to not get in their own head?
To really just focus on what matters. You only can control what you can control. And I mean, from this summer, that's just been something big that really stood out to me, is just controlling what I can control and focusing on those things that I can control. So I'll tell any of them that that's what's helped me. And I think that living by that and owning that has really, really been great for me so far.
My last question. So talk about this being your senior year overall. Of course, there's that. Is there that thought in the back of your head about the eligibility, since this year doesn't take away that year? Is there a thought about coming back for a fifth year?
It's a thought. It definitely is a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good deal. And I'll wrap up with one, and then we'll transition over. Just when you break down the shooting on this team, having Tierra back, we know Lainey can shoot that, and just with the different ways you guys can play, with maybe even, quote unquote post players now, with, being able to shoot from the outside. Just how would you kind of break down the shooting ability of this team, especially the way that you guys are playing right now?
I'm sorry. Could you explain that to me?
Oh. I guess maybe does it feel like you're surrounded with even more shooters this year, with Tierra being back, and if Lainey's in a slightly different role, or Michaela can come in and sort of play a post role but also stretch a defensive? Does it feel like you're surrounded by a lot of shooters when you're out there?
Oh yeah, definitely. My focus, especially with being point guard for the team, I'm looking to get into the paint, draw the defense in so I can kick it out to one of them. And I know that's a three all day. Like you said, I'm surrounded with all 3-pointers, and I don't know, it's amazing. And honestly, my eyes just light up going into the paint, knowing that I can kick it out to one of them.
Well, Pre, thank you for your time. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
So now we have Tierra Wilson, 113 threes in her first 2 seasons with the Mountaineers. Set out last year, recovering from an injury, Winston-Salem native. So, Tierra, if you just want to share some of your thoughts of what it's been like being back in the fold, and then we can open up for some questions.
Hey guys, my name is Tierra Wilson. I'm very excited to be back as a senior. Unfortunately, to a devastating season-ending injury, and I'm just happy to be out there with my teammates right now.
We'll start off with Ethan Joyce from the Winston-Salem Journal.
Yeah. I guess first off, just you mentioned the injury, but what was it like for you I guess just kind of being sidelined like that and kind of the way you were thinking about this next year, because Angel mentioned that you've been vocal from the get-go and really kind of stepped back into the game almost immediately without any, like, I guess, worries about re-injuring or, kind of playing like you were before the injury. So what's it been like for you to step back into this and just kind of hop back into being a voice on this team?
I think it's just always been like a moment of being dialed in. I mean, I know I wasn't expecting for the injury to occur, especially with it being so close to around this time, like 2 weeks away from the season. But just being back in a vocal leader for my team, like it's been great, just leading them on and off the court. It's just been good being with them and trying to get our chemistry together and everything.
So Coach was talking about playing Pre at point a little bit, and she said it's been an interesting development for the team and definitely for Pre too. But what's it been like for you to watch her working in that position a little bit more?
It's been great just to see her work and just see her embrace the position and just be so explosive at the point guard and really get us pushing and moving on the offensive end for us. So I think it's great that she's been embracing that role in the point guard for us.
And last one for me, she also mentioned it seems like you guys are really sharing the ball, maybe the best that you have kind of coming into the start of the season. What's it like playing in that kind of system where you guys are sharing the ball a lot? And why do you think that's happening more this year than maybe opposed to years past?
I think it's been fun. Definitely our chemistry is building. It's just been fun to be out there and compete and pass the ball around. It just makes it more of a fun environment. And also our relationship is really sincere off the court. So that helps on the court with chemistry. So that's really been a plus and a difference from last year and this year.
Next, I'll throw it to Pierre Banks.
AT, hope all is well. So you do so many things well, from ball handling to your defensive presence, your leadership. But in your humble opinion, what do you feel like is your greatest asset to this team?
I think my greatest asset is just being vocal to everybody. I think we all have that mutual respect for each other. So I feel like when I say something, like everybody listens and is dialed in. So I think that's the most important thing right now, that we have leadership right now.
This has been a trying year for everybody. And coming into the season is pushed back a little bit. The schedule is different than it has been in years. How have you all been able to use all these situations in 2020 to come together as a team?
We've just been taking it day by day, embracing and celebrating the little small things. And also we've been reading a book together to just keep us uploaded in spirits and motivated to know, we're not alone. Other people are going through this. Everybody's going through this. So just leaning on each other right now, especially during this time, and taking it day by day.
This will be the last one for me. A lot of people look at what you all do on the court, and it's exceptional. But what they don't see is what you do off the court. The fact that you all led the department as far as teams go in community service hours from a season ago. Why is it so important for you all to get out in the community and be an inspiration there?
I think now more than ever, like in the community, it's important to reach out, especially during these times. We've always been a big advocate for the community, with Coach C doing a great job with community service, and also Coach Angel being involved with the community, and Miss Irene. So it's just been great just to reach out to them during this time and just mingle and build our fan base.
Thank you, T.
I'll chime in with one, Tierra, just of the leadership council that you mentioned, and I know Coach mentioned, just what's it like having a big role in that, and maybe some of the objectives that you hope that your leadership can kind of trickle down to some of the younger teammates.
It's funny you brought that up because we had like a team meeting almost at the end of the season last year, and we were like, who do you think are good leaders? And when they were like me, and I'm like, what? I didn't even play last year. So I thought that was pretty big for them to say about leadership. So I think just going forward, I think that's going to be a big implement for all of us just to bond together, me, Lainey, and Pre, just to work together to lead the team this year.
I think that is it for you, Tierra. As Pierre mentioned, the women's basketball program led the nation last year in volunteer hours through the Helper community service competition. So appreciate your time today and everything you do for App State. So thank you, Tierra.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Lainey Gosnell, averaged 10.1 points, 5.7 rebounds a year ago, and led the team with 45 three-pointers. Lainey, if you just want to maybe open with a few remarks on what it's like to kind of get going with this season through the preseason practices you have, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me this morning. I would say this year is a lot different for us without having summer workouts and everything like that. And with some newcomers coming in, like it kind of seems like we're behind, but if you look at it in a good way, everyone's kind of behind. But I'm really excited to get out there. We had our scrimmage yesterday, and it was really exciting to play with everyone and see what kind of like the weapons we have. We have like a lot of depth this year, so I'm excited to start playing.
Sorry, we'll start off with Ethan Joyce from the Winston-Salem Journal.
Hey, I guess first off, Angel mentioned, that you guys are trying to play with a little more pace. And I wonder if that's something you're kind of noticing in these practices, if this is a team that's going to move the ball around a lot, but also move a bit faster as you go down the court.
Yeah, I think that's something that she's tried to implement since like my freshman year. Is she wants to play with pace, and like I said earlier, we have the weapons to do that. It's more just like decision making out of that, but it's really fun playing fast. I think we're best at scoring when we're in transition or playing fast. But other than that, I'm really excited to see what we can do with that.
She mentioned that there have been some looks where maybe you're kind of playing that post position a little bit. What's that like for you? Do you ever kind of get down there and think like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing down here?
No, actually, I'm kind of excited about it. I called my mom yesterday after the scrimmage and was like, I kind of feel like I was back in high school because I like played all in the paint in high school. And so it's kind of cool to like be able to do a little bit of both. And it puts me in a better position for rebounding. And so I'm kind of excited to take on that role this year as well.
Yeah, we were just asking Tierra about being vocal and being kind of active on the court with the team again. But what kind of impact do you see on this team with her on the court being as vocal as she is?
Yeah, she said vocal, and I was actually in the room, and I was like, she should have said her three-pointers, because I think she brings also like along with vocal, she brings along like the stretch on the floor. She's a really like good shooter, and she stretches the floor a lot, and it opens up rim runners, it opens up drives because she has the ability to shoot the three at a high percentage.
Ethan might be muted. We'll go to Jason Savage from WHKY in Hickory.
You were mentioning the kind of based off of what Ethan was saying just a second ago, you're the leading returning rebounder. Does that put any pressure on you to kind of replace Bailey from what she was doing?
I wouldn't really say like replace. I think it's going to be a bunch of us chipping in to get those rebounding. Bailey was an elite rebounder, and I think it's a big role that we're going to have to fill. But yes, Coach P talks to me every day about rebounding, and that's really emphasized every day and in film, and they chart that. And so I think it's like a really big hole we're looking to fill, and I've accepted that role.
All right, we'll go to Pierre Banks.
Hey, Lainey, hope all is well. So it seems from year to year, we always see major improvements from you. First as a shooter, and then taking the ball off the dribble, driving to the basket, rebounding. What have you really been focused on in the off season to try to take your game to the next level?
I've been getting a lot of shots up. I will say that losing the summer has put everyone back in skill development, I guess you can say. But Coach Angel's been really big about like we do our daily vitamins, and each of us have our own. And so right now is like shooting the three and getting game like shots. And I'm also just working on like decision making of reading second defender. I think that's one of my weaknesses I really try to focus on. And then taking the role of playing some of the post down low and just working on like positioning and how to play down there. And so I guess kind of just like a combination of all of those, just continuing to improve those skills that I've developed.
Seems like when you have been at your best is when you have lots of shooters on the floor. And now going into this season, it seems like you've got shooters in every position. What does that do for you all going into the season?
No, yeah, I think that's going to be like the biggest difference from last year is like we have so many players that can play, like make an impact in the game. And Coach Angel's emphasized it a lot too. It's like every day we have someone new that's like had a great practice and made an impact in a different way. And that's really special because I think it gives everyone equal opportunity to make an impact in the game. It's not just pressure on a couple players of making decisions or making an impact. And so it's really exciting to have a lot of players that can come in and like do something. We have a lot of weapons this year. And so I'm looking forward to playing with all of them.
And this would be my last one. Coach talked a little bit about you guys having a little more autonomy in the offense to be able to make decisions and things like that. What does that do for you all to have so many shooters on the floor and to be able to make those decisions on the fly? What does it do for you offensively?
I'm really excited about it because I think in the past we've kind of like developed, I guess I don't know how to say it, but like kind of play like robots in a way. And so this year, like going in like from the get-go, they've like given us a lot of freedom to make mistakes and freedom to learn from those mistakes. And so I think it's going to help us develop as individuals and also as team as far as chemistry. And I think like we can be really special because making those decisions, having those weapons on the floor and being able to stretch the floor and open up the middle of the lane and kind of just playing basketball. So I'm really excited to see what we can do with that.
Thanks, Lainey.
Lainey, we'll wrap up with a few questions from Cameron Burnett from the Appalachian.
Hey, Lainey. So I asked Pre a couple of these questions, so I'll ask you as well. How have you approached this? Have you approached this season any differently, knowing that it's your senior year?
Honestly, no. I will say it has been different in a way of like all of it's like we don't know what to expect and it's all the unknowns. But as far as like senior year, it's more just like I want to continue to get better and help my team and be successful.
And then one more. So you say about the unknown factor of it. Is there that thought in the back of your head thinking about a fifth year with the NCAA's rules due to COVID?
It's definitely been put out there. I'm also in the second year of my grad school cohort next year. And so I'll have a lot on the table as far as practicum and internship. So it's a decision I need to start thinking about soon. But it has been discussed, but if I had to decide today, I couldn't. So it's definitely in the back of my head every single day. And it's just the opportunity is there and that's good to know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Lainey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.